Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Ivy Podcast. Today we're going to be talking about customer experience. We live in a world when customers can reach businesses in a lot of ways, right? More ways than ever before. And they expect short wait times, quick solutions, and even personalized interactions at every touch point. With today's customers' expectations higher than ever before, how can you position yourself and your team in a way that you can deliver a great customer experience? And I'm excited to dive into this question. And I'm excited to bring on my guest for today, Susana de Sousa. Susana has over 9 years of experience in customer experience. She is currently the Senior Manager of Customer Support at Loom, where she empowers users to be the best version of themselves and achieve more with their team. She was, or she is, the third employee at Loom and has helped the company scale to 120 Loommates and counting. Before Loom, she helped launch and grow Airbnb's European headquarters to over 600 employees. When she's not helping companies scale and provide great customer experience, she's paying it forward as one of the mentors for the Portuguese Women in Tech community and also sharing resources and advice for job seekers in her personal blog. Susana, I'm so excited for today's episode and thank you so much for taking the time.
No, thank you. Honestly, Caesar, thank you so much for having me today. It's a pleasure to be here.
No, it's a pleasure, and let's dive right into it. So let's start with what you're currently doing now at Loom, and just give us a background. For those that might not be familiar with Loom, what Loom
Mhm.
is, what is the problem that Loom is solving, and what falls under your current role.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be happy to. Caesar, honestly, Loom is such a simple concept. It's video messaging for work. That's it. It's that simple. It basically combines how expressive video is with the convenience of messaging. So you were talking about those instant personalized interactions. Well, that's Loom. Almost like video messaging in a sense, right? So um, I would basically describe Loom as a new, more efficient and effective way of bringing our work into life so that we can communicate with our teams and our customers. In terms of which problem we're trying to solve, honestly, Loom has so many use cases. You can record your screen, your voice, your face at the same time and basically create an instantly shareable video in less time than it would basically take you to type an email. So we're making people more efficient in the way that they communicate. And this goes from, onboarding new employees to troubleshooting customer issues, to code reviews. Loom just makes it easier to get your message across quickly and clearly as well. And then in terms of what I do at Loom, thank you so much for the intro, by the way. That was amazing. You made me sound way better than I am, definitely. But I currently oversee the support operations at Loom. Our focus is to create a support experience that is not just efficient, but also educational and human. And this is both at scale with our free users, but also individually with our enterprise customers. So this means that right now I manage our team of 15 people, fantastic 15 people in the support team, as well as the operational strategy.
Awesome, Susanna. And the intro, that's all you, right? I just
Thanks.
put all the research together, but no, it's impressive what you've done. And
I appreciate that.
just
Thank you.
just to echo what you mentioned here, I've been a fan of Loom for the past 2 years, and I really like Loom because it brings your whole humanity right through video, right? And
Mhm.
through my work at Mind Valley, being a company that it's spread out across the world. We use Loom a lot to communicate in a way that text would not be able to. fulfill that goal, right? So I'm a
Yeah.
big loomer over here.
Early adopter, I see.
Early adopter for sure. Yeah, I could go into it, but um, before diving deeper into customer support and customer experience, I wanted to make a quick stop, into your journey through Airbnb, because I understand that you that was one of your first jobs in tech, right? So
Yeah.
I'm very curious. What was the journey like? What were some of the challenges that you had to overcome, and how do you help scale the team, to 600 plus employees? So I would love to take a deeper dive into that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started at Airbnb back in 2011. They were still a young company, I
Hmm.
think, just after raising a Series B. They were just becoming popular. It was around the time where there was that big scandal that hit because one of the guests had ruined the host's,
Right.
listing. So they were hiring like crazy. And I remember back then there were around maybe 250 people in the company. And I
Hmm.
thought, wow, this is a massive company. But departments were still, being built out, workflows were being created, everything was kind of new.
Yeah.
And I started as a support agent. At some point, I was moved to the payments team, which I loved with all my heart. I absolutely enjoyed that challenge, dealing with payment processors and just making sure that our hosts' payments got to them. And eventually, I started managing that team as well. So our main challenge was really to provide that payment assistance to not just hosts, honestly, but also guests and Airbnb partners, and to make sure that we were recovering funds so that the business could continue to grow as well. Um, I learned a ton, honestly, during my time at Airbnb. It was truly, truly a life changing experience for me, not just with how it shaped my career, but also with the people that I met. To this day, I'm super happy to call many of them my friends. And after a couple of years of working at the Dublin office in Ireland and helping grow it to 600 people, as you mentioned, I ended up moving to Amsterdam to find a new adventure. I
Hmm.
wanted to, start something new.
Yeah.
And I missed Airbnb. I only after like leaving it did I realize what an amazing, amazing company. I mean, I knew while I was there, but it's, after you lose something that you appreciate it so much more. And that is truly a testament at what, Brian Chesky and the founders really built there. It is truly a fantastic company. Taught me a lot, invaluable experience, really. And that led me to Loom, which I am so grateful for. When I found it, and maybe I'm getting ahead here, but when I found Loom and I learned about the product and the company, I was absolutely sold. I love the concept. I thought it was incredibly useful. So I messaged Joe, who is our CEO, one of the founders, and I basically just asked him for a job. And now it's been 4 years, and Loom has evolved into a product that I'm super, super proud of, and the team is just fantastic. So I'm very privileged to have been given this opportunity, starting with Airbnb and then leading up to Loom as well.
No, that's awesome journey, and I totally agree with you. When you're part of a company and you're doing work that you love, days fly by, and it's not
Yeah,
only it's not only after you leave that makes you realize, oh wow, that was a great group of people doing amazing work.
yeah,
But most of the time, I would say that in order for us to keep growing, we have to leave, right? Because there's only so
that's
much
very true.
growth that we can achieve at one place. So with that in mind, what were some of the, I guess, key lessons that you took from Airbnb to Loom that are
Mhm.
serving you into what you're doing now?
That's an excellent question. I would say that above all was the concept of customer support.
Hmm.
Airbnb is a hospitality company.
Hmm.
And when you are thinking about the experience of the customer in a hospitality environment, that's
Hmm.
typically a little bit different than in tech. And one of the things that I'm most privileged or grateful for is the fact that I was trained with customer support in hospitality in mind, and
Hmm.
that really shaped how I provide customer and how I think about, sorry, how I provide support and how I think about our customers
Hmm.
at Loom. That was definitely a huge lesson. And then, tons of lessons when it comes to managing teams, hiring people, learning how to coach people, how to develop people, all of that important personal development and career um, opportunities were really, really life changing for me at Airbnb. I got training from, the best trainers in the world that were working with, the founders. I was able to access opportunities that I am incredibly grateful and lucky to have been a part of. And all of that helped me grow professionally, but also personally, right? So that was incredible for me.
No, absolutely. And someone I spent 7 years in the tourism and hospitality industry. I can attest to the power of obsessing about the customer experience, right? Whether it's customer support,
Right.
customer experience, it's one of the key elements in helping scale a company. So uh, that's awesome. So
Thank
with
you.
that, yeah, no, it's something that you can always bring with you, right, to whatever project that you transition to. Is that
Mhm.
obsession over just providing a great customer experience, right? And you get that in tourism and hospitality.
Yeah, absolutely.
So with that in mind, you mentioned a couple things here that I want definitely dive deeper. But before we do
Mhm.
that, in your own words, how would you define what customer support is as it pertains to a business?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question because to me, it all boils down to one thing and one word actually. So customer support is opportunity. It's
Hmm.
really the opportunity to help and advocate for customers. It's the opportunity to share valuable user feedback to shape and guide a product. It's the opportunity to sell and upsell services to create additional streams of revenue. And it's the opportunity at the end of the day to create customers for life, right? So customer support is opportunity, and support teams really represent the brand, they represent the company. Without a team providing a strong support experience, you're just missing out on a huge, huge opportunity.
And what would you say are some of the misconceptions that people have about customer support?
There's a ton, I would say. They're also kind of like local to certain places. So here in Portugal, when you talk about customer support, people think, oh, call center. And
Mm.
while that's not wrong, it's also kind of an incomplete idea. But I think the biggest misconception, at least to me personally, is that support is often seen as a cost center. I
Mm.
think that, when people hear about support departments, they think of cost centers. And while that is accurate in a
Mm.
way, so basically the resources that we do spend in support are a cost to business, that is a fact. But it's the incomplete picture once again, because being a cost center and a growth center are not mutually exclusive. So, for example, I'll talk about support at Loom because that's the closest example I can give you. But support at Loom is a valuable driver of revenue for us. So, every interaction that we have, whether that is with free or paid customers, there are opportunities to unlock Loom's values and honestly to upsell our products. So, at the end of the day, if you're leading a support or a customer experience team and that team is not very effective, it might be because we're not sharing insights or we're not closing the feedback loop with the rest of the teams. Within the Loom org, for example, support is what we call the voice of the customer. So
Mm.
we're responsible for representing our customers' feedbacks, their wants, their needs to the teams that build product. If we refer back to one of Loom's core values, for example, that core value is lead with transparency. We think that when information is open and accessible, we're able to make decisions better and faster. In other words, essentially, we must always advocate for our customers and we must always be the voice so that we can be really, really impactful. So, in this way, we take support away from being a cost center and into a growth center instead.
I like that. Growth center. especially with today's technology. I definitely had that misconception in the past where
Mhm.
I thought customer support was seen as a cost center, right?
Right.
But fast forward to today, that's definitely changed my perspective because when you interact with a customer of whatever company it is, right? It could be Loom or it
Mhm.
could be anywhere. That's an opportunity there to not just fulfill whatever requests the customer has, but also delight, right?
Exactly.
With the experience, with the interaction. Now, with this in mind, I know, and you mentioned this um, previously about teammates, right? Uh,
Mhm.
and how important it is to hire and train the right people, right?
Yep.
Because if one of the teammates providing customer support, it's not on their A game, right? It's gonna it's gonna show, right, that
Yep.
performance. So, what are some of the key, I guess, key skills, mindsets, or training that you provide to your team to make sure that everybody is always providing the best customer support possible?
Yeah, that is an excellent question. And it's super timely because we just hired 6 people in December. So they're coming out of their onboarding and going into kind of like the real world of
Yeah.
tickets and not having, in a way, as much visibility and support as we have been giving them for the past couple of months. So I think it's extremely important to keep an open dialogue, right? Make sure that, as a manager, I'm having constant and frequent one-on-ones with the entire team. Right now, it's getting to be a little bit complicated for me. We have 15 people on the team,
Hmm.
and meeting one-on-one with everyone plus all the other meetings is something that I've been struggling with. And therefore, I start feeling that I'm not doing my job as a manager, that I'm letting
Hmm.
them down. So for me, it's extremely important to have that open dialogue, to have transparency, and above all, to understand how they're feeling, if they find any gaps in the training, if there's any sessions or trainings that we should put together to make sure that they feel supported. And it's really all about that trust and that support. And in that way, we're allowing people to do their best work. I typically say that my job is not to support customers, it's to support my team. Their success is my success. And if I'm not there for them, if I don't know what they need, if I can't support them in a way, and then I'm not doing my job.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. And I'm a big fan of doing one-on-ones until it becomes unscalable, because
Yeah.
I believe that one-on-ones really provide the space, right, for people to
Mhm.
just open up, right, and have that relationship, with the
Mhm.
manager or other teammates, right?
Mhm.
So I'm so happy that you mentioned one-on-ones here.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, like when you're growing a team as well, right? You need to what you said, like it doesn't become scalable. I totally agree because we need to understand that workflows that
Hmm.
worked well for 6 people may not work well for 15 people, right? So we need to expect that workflows will break, the culture of the team will change,
Mm.
and different dynamics will be created. And this is all a good thing. It means that the team is evolving, the
Hmm.
organization is growing. But I think that the challenge here is to make sure that we're doing everything that we can to lead with transparency and empathy so that again the team feels supported through all the changes. People typically don't love changes, and that's just a reality for all humans. So I think it's really important for managers to provide context, to lead with the why, and most importantly to just be human, because at the end of the day we're all working towards the same goals, the same missions, and it's absolutely crucial that we're all on the same page.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And there's a couple of questions I have following up with this.
Yeah.
One is on the hiring aspect. When you are looking for candidates, what are some of the things that you look for in terms of skill sets, or even mindset, right? So that's
Yeah.
one part. And the other part is, since we're talking about scaling and given your experience with Airbnb um, and Loom, going from employee number 3 to 120 Loommates and counting, I wanted to ask you about some of the systems, right, and
Mhm.
things that you have put into place in order to continue scaling. So those are the two questions that came to mind. But let's start with the hiring
With the
aspect.
hiring,
Yeah.
I think that's an awesome question because so this is a topic that I really care about. Obviously, hiring and helping people find a job and all of that stuff. And with Loom growing from 6 people to 120, almost
Mhm.
130 now actually this week, which is very exciting.
Yeah.
I keep losing track, honestly.
Every month
Um,
is different.
exactly, which is a very good thing. Again, we're super
Yeah.
privileged. But looking for excellent people in customer support. And I've been extremely lucky to have a team with fantastic people with very low attrition. So everyone that has come, almost everyone has stayed, which is awesome for me. So in terms of what do I look for? Soft skills. It's really looking for people that are showing signs of empathy. They're showing signs of self-awareness. They're showing signs of being curious, passionate, ambitious. People that are curious learners, that ask questions, that raise their hands when they have a suggestion. Those are the people that I really want on my team because they'll push each other and myself to continuously grow and to improve not just the product, but literally everything around it, right? So there's workflows that we need to improve, there's documentation that we need to create, and we need people that are thinking ahead and they want to help Loom grow into that. So I think that we can definitely teach, hard skills. Customer support is not rocket science. We can teach and train people to be the best possible customer support agents that you can encounter and have a delightful experience. But you can't really teach empathy, right? And you can't
Mhm.
teach self-awareness.
Mhm.
And especially now that the workforce is moving into a more like hybrid
Mhm.
model, and people will work more from home. People will, have that async and online communication style. It's extremely important that we hire people that know how to communicate, that understand the intricacies of the online world. When you remove that face-to-face interaction, sometimes meaning can get a little bit lost or some confusion may happen. So it's really important for me that I'm hiring people that can navigate all that and that understand how to be successful as well.
I really love, Susana, that you mentioned soft skills because, just from looking around, I feel like sometimes hiring managers or recruiters put too much emphasis on technical skills.
Mhm.
And I'm not saying that they don't matter, right? 'Cause of course they matter,
Right.
especially depending on their role. But I love that you mentioned that you can teach people the hard skills, right? As long as they
Mhm.
have the right mindset, the right attitude, empathy, kindness, being curious, ask questions. So if you're listening to this and you want to go through the recruiting process at Loom and you have Susana, uh, make sure that you show and ask questions and be
Yeah,
curious.
that's right.
It's important, right? It's important
Super important.
because you can't teach that, and I 100% agree with that. So
Yeah,
now
100%.
with with the scaling part, right? Because I know
Mhm.
that you have experience with that. What are some of the things that either you put into place or the company put into place to make sure that they could grow and sustain
Mhm.
that growth?
Yeah, so I think this goes back to when I was talking about, workflows change depending on how many
Hmm.
people you have.
Yeah.
So in the support team, we grew from 0 to 15.
Hmm.
And that's like a small startup, right? That's the
Right.
size of Loom 3 years ago.
Right.
But Loom grew from, 6 people to 130 people
Hmm.
in that same time.
Yeah.
So a lot of things broke as we scaled. And I think what it all comes down to is communication and
Hmm.
making sure that we have the right platforms to be able to communicate, to be able to access information, and to understand where to find that information as well. right? So people need to be all on the same page. If you have a question, you should be able to find that in the documentation. And if you
Mm.
can't find that in the documentation, you should be able to know where you find that information in terms of who you should ask for it, right? So we have Slack for communications with the
Mhm.
team. We have Notion for our internal knowledge base. And we have adapted a ton of other platforms and tools to make sure that we have been able to scale according to the needs of the business as well.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Communication is the first thing that suffers when a company grows,
Yeah.
right? And having the right systems to keep the communication flowing is key. And I had a question, and this is something I just thought about. What's the right balance of I guess sending looms, between the team or to a customer? Does every interaction happens through Loom, or is it more of like, hey, these are the instances where a Loom is more appropriate versus text? Yeah, I'm just curious about that because I would use Loom for anything if I could.
I love that. I think also this is a great question, but there's definitely a balance, right? So in customer support, we have to realize that, not every request is created equally.
Mhm.
There's requests that are just meant to be like quick one touches. There's requests that are more complex in their nature. So we tend to use Loom for the ones that are more complex, for the
Mhm.
ones that require a little bit of back and forth, for the ones that, we want to explain something. So we just record our screen instead of typing out, 10 steps in an email. So that's really where we lean on the power of video to communicate, is in those interactions that are more than, a quick, hey, this is how you do it, or hey, this is the article here, or your video is ready now. Those more transactional interactions, those we just want to, make sure that the customer has that information. For the ones that are more complex, we definitely lean on power of video. And the same goes for, our team communications.
Mhm.
If I want to send out an update to the team, I'll do that through video or
Mm.
through Loom in this case.
Yeah.
Sometimes I don't need to get everyone on a call if it's a quick 2 minute Loom, especially because I have people all around the world and time
Right.
zones are an issue. So sometimes you want to make sure that people are on the call, they can react to the news, they can give their feedback, they can participate in the discussion. And yeah, 100% synchronous, communication is the way to go there. But if it's a quick update, lean on Loom, because that's probably the best way, the quickest way, the most efficient way to get your message across.
Yeah, got it. No, that makes sense, right? Using video for more complex issues. Totally, totally get on board with that.
Thank you for the question though, and I love that you've been using Loom a ton.
I am a loomer. So just to give you a quick little side note here, I, besides work, of course, I typically use Loom to make friends on LinkedIn. I do like a quick 1 minute video to a new connection. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But the people that have accepted my LinkedIn requests, they have all said, "Oh my God, no one has ever sent me a video." So that's just one more way to use Loom to
It's
stand
unique.
to stand out, right?
Yeah,
But yeah,
absolutely.
like I said at the beginning, it's a tool that allows me to bring my whole humanity, especially
Mhm.
in a world where it's remote, right? And speaking of that, I wanted to ask you about the pandemic and COVID-19 and
Oh yeah.
how has this impacted uh, your work or your thinking about the future of work. Um,
Yeah. So 2020 was a really tough year
mm,
for obvious reasons, right?
yeah,
So
yeah,
apart from the devastation that we know about that COVID created, it also actually fundamentally changed the way people will work in the future.
yeah.
And that is amazing in a sense. So it really forced people all around the world to start working remotely,
Hmm.
literally from one day to the other. And that's not an easy thing. It's not easy to go from an office space to a remote setting,
Yeah.
especially if you're relying heavily on in-person communication. If you're not equipped at home to
Mm.
work remotely, it can be a huge roadblock to your
Yeah.
productivity. Personally, I was already working remotely before the pandemic started, but I can 100% see how going back to work is not going to be a reality for a lot of people.
Hmm.
We're already seeing incredible companies, adopting a hybrid approach to work. Spotify, Salesforce, Twitter,
Hmm.
those have recently announced different types of work from home initiatives. And I think that, this is just going to massively impact the future of work as people choose to move away from those huge, huge cities and into maybe like smaller hubs where quality of life may be better. I think companies have a lot of work to do in terms of adjusting and adapting. Online communication is probably going to take off like crazy and have a really, really, really important role. And even like the benefits in the companies, right? They're going to have to be designed for remote workers or
Yeah.
remote employees. So I think the future of work is going to be hybrid. I think that there's a lot that we are going to learn, and I think it's going to be really exciting.
Yeah, no, I echo what you said, because even for me that I had been working remotely for a couple of years, I had to upgrade my home office because
Yeah,
everything was going remote now, and I little by little I added a standing desk, I have the microphone, I have some light, external camera, because it was just like, okay, if I'm gonna be in this home office pretty much a big chunk of the day, might as well just make
exactly.
it um, better, right?
Yeah, make it more comfortable, make it more productive, make it a space you actually enjoy working from. And
Yeah.
I think that's so important because most people didn't have that option, or, maybe they're just waiting to go back to work. They didn't invest, the company didn't invest. And that really hurts the idea of working remotely because
Hmm.
I don't think a lot of people are equipped to do that correctly.
Yeah.
So kudos to you for really investing in that. I think it's super important.
Yeah, no, it's important, right, for your own productivity and health.
Yeah, exactly. And health.
Yeah. Now, Susanna, I know we touched a little bit on job seekers and recruiting, but
Mhm.
I wanted to ask you about your personal blog, because I know that you started that with the intention of help job seekers with the recruitment process, right? Especially
Yeah.
in tech. Um, we already mentioned a few things about the recruitment process, but I wanted to ask you,
Mhm.
like, why does that matter to you? Like, why did you start that blog?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for asking. I think that the blog was started in kind of like a very unofficial way.
Hmm.
But, at the end of the day, when I look back, and I said this before, last year was incredibly difficult
Yeah.
for job seekers. We saw so many people lose their jobs as companies, downsized, so many jobs being made redundant. I kept seeing messages, in LinkedIn where
Hmm.
people, they were talking about going through multiple recruitment processes. They were not getting offers.
Yeah.
The competition itself, super tough.
Yeah.
So again, like I didn't think that it would kind of like grow the way that it has grown, but I just wanted to help. And I find that oftentimes people, they aren't aware of certain opportunities that aren't posted, maybe like job boards or LinkedIn. Anecdotally, over the past couple of years, I've been, able to connect friends looking for jobs
Hmm.
to companies where they later start working. And, I facilitated the discovery part, but the merit of landing the jobs or the roles
Hmm.
entirely theirs. Like I had nothing to do with that.
Hmm.
But because of that, I wanted to try to do this a little bit at scale and
Hmm.
help people other than my friends. So going so far, it's honestly it's going great, and I've received wonderful feedback. The blog has been read by people in over 60 countries, and
Yeah.
I've gotten received thousands of views. And the best part is it actually has helped at least one person land the job, find and land the job.
I saw
So when
that.
I got that message on LinkedIn, I was beyond happy. Absolutely made my day. So that's exactly why I made it, so that people that I don't know could actually find a company that they really, really care about, that they're passionate about the product and the mission, and potentially get a job and change their lives. So that makes me super happy.
Yeah, no, I saw what you shared on LinkedIn about
Mhm.
that person that messaged you, and thank you so much for doing that and sharing your knowledge and just helping out, because you're right. In this I guess era that we're living, where
Yeah.
a lot of people are pivoting, right, or being
Hmm.
forced to pivot into an unknown industry, into a new career path. Just having some guidance on how to approach that goes a long way. So, I mean, it makes sense why you started, but I definitely
Thank
wanted
you.
to ask you about that. Um, I also want to ask you about the mentorship that you're doing for
Hmm.
the Portuguese Women in Tech, because I am a big believer in mentoring and paying it forward. Um,
Hmm.
so what does being a mentor mean to you, and why does this matter to you?
Yeah, absolutely. I love the Portuguese Women in Tech community. I've been involved with this amazing group of women in tech for the past 2 years, I think,
Mhm.
around that time. And honestly, like I couldn't be happier. I've met inspiring people who have pushed me to grow, and I constantly get a ton of value from this community. You said before, communities are fantastic. What happened in Texas was an example of that.
Yeah.
And online communities, again, like they deliver so much value. I think we're going to see them become even more popular in the
Hmm.
future as people gradually search for new ways to connect, especially again in this hybrid role that we're going to see. The Portuguese Women in Tech community is honestly like one of those communities where everyone is just so happy to help. And I think that it just creates a fantastic environment for growth, for the discovery of new ideas, and honestly a lot of fun. A huge shout out to the founders of the community, Inês and Liliana, for the fantastic work that they've done, which has in a way allowed me to also become a mentor for other people joining the program. That has been an incredible experience. I've been able to share knowledge and experiences with someone who is a curious learner. And at the end of it, I was able to walk away with new friends. And that to me is just fantastic. The second program actually is starting super soon. So I'm super excited. It's a really great opportunity for me to learn more and just meet inspiring people. I honestly can't wait.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, community is it's very important, right?
Yeah.
And how do you incorporate I guess mentorship into the work at Loom? Do you incorporate that at all, or um,
Yeah,
yeah?
so we don't have an official mentorship program yet, but I know that that's something that we will continue to
Hmm.
look into, and I think that provides a ton of value to any business in the world, honestly. In my personal day to day, I try to include some of the mentorship principles into kind of like my one on ones, my coaching, if
Hmm.
possible. But at this point, it's nothing like official.
Hmm.
And it's more on kind of like a need basis versus something that is established, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I guess you're doing it also with your blog, right? That's a form of
Thank
mentorship,
you.
right? Sharing your knowledge and advice to job seekers out there.
Thank you.
And all right, so shifting gears here a little bit.
Yeah.
I want to talk about tech and innovation as it pertains to customer experience and customer support,
Mhm.
right? What are some of the trends that you're excited about, or maybe new platforms or technologies that um, are going to impact, right, the way we do customer support, customer experience, right? What are you curious about?
Yeah, I get curious and really like passionate about, everything that is new and shiny. I love technology. I love new ideas. But to be a bit more specific, I think automation, without a doubt.
Mm,
Actually, I should say automation that does not feel like customers are dealing with a robot. Maybe
mm,
even like human automation
mhm,
in that way. This is something that we're always researching at Loom. Our user base is growing every single day, and we're faced with choices. Do we support all users? Do we
Mm,
support free? Do we support paid? Do we assume that all users want to talk to support? They
mm,
probably just want access to information fast. So how can we deal with that? How can we provide the best possible customer experience based on the needs of different types of customers? Um, and we don't have actually unlimited resources.
mhm.
So if we
Right.
look at the resources that we have and the challenges that we have at hand, we might need to get really, really creative with how we facilitate that type of support, right? So I know that I've talked about this, but the type of support that is efficient, that is educational, that is human, both at scale with our free users and again individually with our enterprise customers. So for me, automation is the answer. It's about being intelligent. It's about understanding what our customers want, and then also being able to deliver that seamlessly. It's not about robots. Sometimes people hear automation and they're like, oh, chatbots,
Right.
robots, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But it's about anticipating needs, right? So
Mm,
it's about data, it's about learning, and it's about making things more efficient. It's about being so proactive about the business that you actually are able to cut operational costs and then reinvest those into the product, into the team to make sure that you're improving both the platform, the service, and the experience for the customers.
I love what you mentioned. It's about anticipating needs.
Yeah.
And I think that's the name of the game there. Especially as I mentioned at the beginning, right? We live in a world where customers expect like quick solutions, right?
Mhm.
Self-service. Like if I go to your website or to your knowledge base, I'm expecting to find the answer right away with a quick search. And
Yeah.
if I have to talk to someone in support, right, I'm expecting that experience to be personalized to my needs, based on
Mhm.
the context of the issue, right? So um, yeah,
100%.
it's a challenging time, but also exciting, right? To
That's
be
exactly what it is.
in customer support, right? Customer experience. So what are some of the, I guess, some of the platforms or some of the things that you have put into place to make sure that you anticipate the needs as much as possible? Do you collect feedback, right? What's the process look like?
Mhm. Yeah, that's a great question. Do you have 6 hours? We can cover it all. I'm just joking, but I would love to give you an overview still. So
Quick overview.
at kind of at the automation level, we love looking for trends. I
Mm,
try to identify keywords, for example, and then we set up triggers to make sure
mm,
that if, let's say, a support request comes in that matches certain conditions and keywords, then we can immediately take care of it and get that information to the customer as soon as we possibly can. And that for us has been a huge win. We've been able to handle thousands of inquiries with good CSAT because we still measure satisfaction for those automated ones. And customers are happy to get that information. So that has led us to actually dedicate resources into building ways in the platform itself where we can proactively anticipate customers' needs. So that is going to be a chatbot, hopefully being launched in a couple of weeks. I'm
mhm,
very, very excited for that. So information super fast. And then the next iteration of that is going to be actually deploying that proactively with answers. Let's say if,
mm.
Caesar, you're recording a video, the video, stop processing. I'm sure that has happened to you as it has
Indeed.
happened to many of our users. And you're like, what? Can I recover this? Can I not? And
Uh,
imagine, a little pop-up being like, hey, your video is actually missing one part. Here's how you fix that. And you recover that video. So collecting this data from our customers,
mm,
collecting feedback, as you mentioned, has really enabled us to kind of like create a roadmap of what can we do today, what do we need to do tomorrow, and then
mhm.
how can we plan even for the future. So we're super big on automation, and I'm very passionate about this topic as well. There's a ton that we can do, that we have done, but the opportunity here is just astronomical. If I look at our user base today, And this is something that Joe, our founder, is very passionate about too. And he's like, well, you look at it today and then imagine 100 times the number. What are we going to do to be able to support that growth? Like, think about it, right? And that's where you can really look at blue sky scenarios. You can look at cost. You can look at investment opportunities, and you come up with amazing, hopefully amazing ways that you can scale without hopefully breaking too many things for our customers. But it's a huge challenge, a huge opportunity, and I really love it. Thank you for asking that question, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that question is both scary and exciting at the same time, right? Like, imagine
Yeah,
10 times the user base. Oh,
right.
what would that look like? But I really like the foundations of gathering data from your user base,
Hmm.
right? Feedback and constantly iterating based on that. I think
Yep.
that's a winning formula in any project, really, or any company, right? Because ultimately, you want to serve your user base to the best possible, and
Hmm.
one of the ways to ensure that you do that is through data, right, and feedback.
Hmm.
So, thanks for sharing that. Now, shifting
Absolutely.
gears here, I'm a big fan of failure because I think failure can teach us more than success, right? As long as
Yep.
as long as you have an open mindset. So I want to ask you if you have a favorite failure of yours, or maybe a situation where because because you failed, it set you up for success later.
Hmm.
So I wanted to talk about that for our next question.
Yeah, I love this question. I fail all the time, honestly. And I think it's time for people to embrace that failure
Yeah,
is just part of life. And
yeah.
it's okay. Just make sure that you're learning something, you're taking something away from the experience. I can definitely tell you something that happened to me at Airbnb. I was and this has stuck with me for ages, as you can tell. I was working in the payments department, and I issued a check to a host that had been banned.
Mhm.
And this was not a small check. Basically, it was a couple hundred or a couple of $1,000s, I should say. But the point here is that it was to a host that Airbnb had deemed a scammer. So it
Mm,
was the worst possible thing that I could have done
right.
ever. And what it taught me was that by not panicking, by going to my manager immediately, by explaining the situation, I was then able to work with our finance manager and the
Mhm.
payment processor to then revert that check. And we just have to realize that sometimes people make mistakes. And sometimes they are too afraid to speak up because
Mhm.
the consequences are real or can be real. And the fact that I was able to speak up was because literally my manager created a safe environment for me.
Mm,
And not all managers do that. And
yeah.
yes, it was by far not a great situation. I was definitely worried I might lose my job. But to this day, because of that manager and because she taught me what it was like to create a safe environment, to create a trusting relationship with your employees, I also try to create that same safe environment for my team to make sure that if someone makes a mistake, I am there to support them through it. And we try to find a solution together until it's resolved. And, in the event that it can't be resolved, that we at least learn from the situation together and we take the steps to prevent it from happening again. So that time at Airbnb where that happened, it was traumatizing. Yes, it's been like what, 8 years, and I talk about this like all the time. But it has really, really taught me that mistakes happen. We're all human, and we just need to make sure that we're there for each other and we can grow together.
I love that, Susana. And I think if you are a manager listening to this episode and you have managed to create an environment of trust, honesty, transparency, and an environment where your staff is not afraid to come to you, you know, uh, if they made a mistake, I think that's you can consider that a success because that is so
Yeah,
important. If you're a staff member feeling like no matter what it is, you can go to your manager and have a conversation, right, about
exactly.
what happened and how you can, take measures to prevent that of happening in the future. So I'm really happy that you mentioned that, because it's so important, right? Especially now in a remote environment, that
Yeah,
it's a little more challenging to create that. Um,
absolutely.
awesome, Susana. So before we wrap it up, I always like to ask my guests about any book, any course, or anything at all that you're consuming that is helping you add value, right, to your life,
Hmm.
right? It could be a book, a course, or audiobook, whatever it is, right? Whatever you have for us, just share.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this might be a little bit cheesy, but recently I've been consuming a ton of the masterclass classes.
Mm,
And specifically, there's one, The Art of Negotiating, I think the title
mm,
might be, but with Chris Voss, I
yeah,
believe his name is.
yeah.
It's so good. It's honestly so good. And I think that, I'm probably not never going to be in a hostage situation where I have to negotiate with,
Hopefully not.
hopefully not, but just the principles of it and how they are so transferable and applicable in literally any single situation in your life is just so important.
That's a good
I
one.
yeah, I mean, it's just there's this wealth of information in masterclass. I really love it, and I'm a big like TED Talk fan as well, so I tend to watch a ton of those. And yeah, I mean, I don't know if this answers your question. I'm sorry that I go to masterclass and not to a book.
No, no, absolutely. Masterclass works. I haven't taken a masterclass yet, but I've seen all the classes, and that art of negotiation, and it's on my
Yeah,
list because it's a skill set that you can take anywhere you go, right?
exactly.
Even in your personal life, right? You can negotiate things. So
Definitely.
I'll definitely be checking that out. Um, awesome, Susanna. So
Awesome.
to to wrap it up, what will be your one of your main takeaways that you really want the audience to absorb from this episode, as it pertains to customer support and building teams?
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, we talked about a ton of different topics on this call, and everything is super super interesting. I think my main takeaway is that life is short. Things can change at any second. I think 2020 really really taught us that. So make sure that you enjoy what you're doing, that you treat people around you with empathy and respect, and most importantly, that you keep learning. The future of work is changing. There's nothing that we can do about it. It is going to change, and there are incredible, incredible opportunities out there, both in support and outside. I'm super excited to see how companies adjust, how they adapt to this new reality, and also how cities evolve too. I think we're going to see a ton of excitement, and it's going to be an incredible few years ahead for the hybrid workforce as well. And I know this is not too related to customer support, but the good news is that customer support is going to follow this innovation. It's going to evolve as well. We're going to see a ton of teams adopting this hybrid remote
Mhm.
work style, and I'm very very excited for that. I think we're going to be able to access talent anywhere in the world much much easier, and that is an incredible thought.
Awesome, Susana. Well, thank you so much for taking the time
Thank
to be
you.
here with us, helping us learn more about Loom, about your background, and sharing with us all your knowledge about customer support, customer experience, building teams, and whatnot. So, thank you so much, and
Absolutely. No.
hoping to have you on another episode down the road.
Thank you so much for this opportunity, Caesar. It's been an absolute pleasure being here, and I would love to sync anytime. Thank you.
My pleasure.